Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin Show for your Thursday edition. Another crazy, wild day. This time was the third day in a row we came down right to that demand zone, and it's funny because the first trade I made this morning was great, nice winner, and then I went heavy as we came back down again and gave back all those gains. So even after knowing or anticipating this nice bounce today, ended up on the futures account anyway on a losing position. A little bit bummed about that, but it's okay. It was good day overall, but it does bring up this question, which I've been talking about for the past few days, which is, you know, the tone, I think, for the show, at least over the past week and a half, has been, it feels like we're getting weaker. Momentum doesn't quite feel like it's there. We're testing lows or hitting demand. And now, for the third consecutive time, we have not only come down to demand, but it's not just one market. It's like most of the market. So let me start there. We'll run through kind of our top 8 markets. You'll see how a lot of these indexes are just, they're right there. And they keep trying to rally, but they keep getting pushed right back down. It's like it's trying to raise its head and then get squashed back down. And ultimately, that usually gives way to the sellers in that situation. So let's start at the bottom here and look at our NASDAQ 100. So I did sell some puts today on the triple Qs. If you look at the Qs, there's this kind of gap where it paused from September 18th. I sold for next Friday, expecting this demand zone to break, but the premium was really high today as we were kind of sitting right at these lows. So I did sell some puts, and here we go again with internet issues. I have no clue, guys. I have everything checked. I'm doing all kinds of scans and stuff to find out what it is, but it says I'm streaming slow. Hopefully you don't have a spinning wheel today. I hope there's no spinning wheel. It just says I'm getting lower bit rate than normal, so all right, let's try to fix that one. So let me go back to that chart, and we'll work our way through it. Notice today, it's the third day in a row we've kind of come back down to this yellow box in the NASDAQ 100. That's at a range between 20,150 and 20,000. So we've got a 150-point zone right there. And it screamed down into it today. Today was, far worse than the last 2 days, not only because of the range of it, the candle, but also where we ended up finishing down near the bottom end of the range. So, anything, if we get a close below 20,000, folks, I think it's, you're looking for more short action, certainly on the NASDAQ 100 here, which has had a pretty ugly day. Now, if you want to know more details, I guess I could bring up the QQQ here just to explain the trade I made here. I do think that we'll probably break it, and I do think you'll get a little bit of a bounce. So I ended up selling. I think that. Oh no, sorry, it wasn't QQQ. It was XLK. I had XLK today. So on XLK, I ended up getting the 4. Man, I have too many things going on. I got the 205s, I believe. Yeah, that's where my line is at. So I did the 205s on XLK, which would be a 4.4% slide from current levels, and got roughly 1% for the next 8 days, which means tremendous amount of volatility. Like that. We like the volatility, obviously a lot of premium. Either, in my mind, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to get a little relief pop here as people go, okay, this market's oversold, or this continues to spread fear, and we start to see more and more selling pressure pile on to this already very depressed market. Now, keep in mind, officially where we closed at today on XLK, you're down 11.4% off the high there. That is technically a correction. So now the headlines will start to read, markets are in a correction, but is it on the NASDAQ 100? We'll bring that one up for you as well so you can see that. And we are right now at 9.73. So we're almost at the technical definition. At one point today, we were down over 10% off the all-time highs. Not in one day, of course, but overall for the past 11 trading sessions. So not great statistically, but it does look like we're coming into some areas of demand. Obviously, when we look at the triple Qs or the NASDAQ 100 futures, we are, in my opinion, sitting right at it, and I'll be playing bounces off that one until they don't hold anymore. Every time it hits it, it gets weaker and weaker and weaker, which is kind of my thought process on today with the S&P, which is what I was trading. So let's go from the NASDAQ, which was your worst performer, down 2.31%. And since we're on that vein, let's dive into the Magnificent Seven here, just to give you a glimpse of what's happening there. Tesla was your worst performer, down 5.6%. You had Nvidia was 5.7%. So jockeying for position, as you know, I have puts on both of those. I have sold puts on those. Tesla, I think I'll be okay with. I have the 250 puts expiring tomorrow, and NVIDIA, I have the 115 puts expiring tomorrow as well. I'm happy to own NVIDIA at 115, no problem. I'll sell covered calls against it at 115. So big decliners there. 5% for Tesla, 5% for NVIDIA, 3.5% for Amazon, 4% for Meta, just 1% for Microsoft, and then Google 0.45, and Apple, your shining star on the day, only down 0.17%. So that's what's bringing down your technology side of things. We look on the Bitcoin chart here. I have nothing really to say about this one at all. I don't see anything here that is going to impact Bitcoin one way or the other than the crypto meeting tomorrow, which I will talk about a lot here in just a second. Lori says the fear greed index is on extreme fear. Yes. I mean, anytime you really don't even need to look at the fear greed index, right? All you have to do is bring up this chart right here and say, relative to what it's done over the past, would you say people are greedy or fearful? And of course, this is a representation of fear, right? So we don't really need the indicator. It's kind of like asking me, Merlin, should we put on, I guess I could get rid of this yellow box now. That's just distracting, isn't it? Oh, that's so much prettier. Let's get rid of all these lines because they don't mean anything anymore. When we look at price movements like this, the fear greed index is kind of, I'll be there soon, Big Ev. Barring some crazy jump up tomorrow, I'll be an NVIDIA owner and happily own it, and I'll probably sell some more puts against it next week. No problem. But when you have something like this, those fear greed indexes are nice to look at. They're just like, makes it easy to read. But as a trader, as a technician, all of you guys should be able to look at this and go, I know this is oversold. I could bring up stochastics, Bollinger Bands, MACD, and it's going to give me an oversold situation right now. Trump is delaying this year. He's delaying them for Mexico, but not for Canada. Canada he's playing hardball with because Canada immediately went into retaliatory tariff mode. Mexico has not. No sheriffs. I shot the sheriff, but I did not shoot no deputy. Damiani says, doesn't look that bad on higher time frames. Correct. So when you look at this on a monthly or a weekly, this dip smooths out. It doesn't look as dramatic. So, looking at this chart here, I still would argue that this is not, I would say, apocalyptic, right? This is no big deal. But to Damiani's point, and it's a good point, if we look here, it looks like an aggressive sell-off, and that would be extreme fear on the market gauge. But if we move over to here, you would have said the same thing. They'd be like, we're in an extreme fear situation. And typically extreme fear leads back to optimism, etc. It's just pendulum just keeps going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So I'm just trying to look at what the market is doing and what's the reaction going to be. Based off this, it looks, sure, I'll look at the VIX just a sec, Margaret. Based off this, it just gives me the feeling that we're going to have a bounce. But again, we've hit it 3 days in a row. This is the third day in a row we have hammered that zone on the S&P. And, Tuesday, phenomenal. Probably best trading day of the week. Best trading day, single trade of the year, I think, pulling out so much on the S&P. Yesterday was great. Today, I got a little overzealous. I traded too heavy and gave back my gains from early in the morning. So I did about 6 trades a day. One of those was a winner, and the other 5 were losers. So I ended up chopping away. Poor trading. It was just a cocky, overzealous day for me. But I was expecting this to bounce, and I just had numbers stop myself out multiple times. If we keep looking at this goes back to the analogy of the jackhammer. I'm sure many of you remember my analogy of a jackhammer. If I were to take a steel spike or an ice pick and try to chop away at a piece of concrete, I'm going to do no damage whatsoever. It doesn't really do any difference. But if I were to take even an ice pick and put it in the tip of a jackhammer and keep hitting it, maybe ice pick would probably bend right away. But let's say it's a steel spike. If I put it in the jackhammer and repetitively hit that concrete, it will start to break that concrete and ultimately break down. So we are at that point where I have this graphic for today that says sitting at demand. I feel like this is what we're doing. You notice we have the NASDAQ sitting at demand. So here's your NASDAQ sitting right at lower demand. I'll get rid of this box here. That doesn't mean anything. Neither does this one. Right? So we're just sitting right there, which is a great demand zone. This will be the second test of it. You look out here to your S&P. You're sitting right at demand zone. Now Russell 2000 is also right at demand zone. It's been in this zone for the last 3 trading sessions. So all of these kind of sitting right in this lower area of demand, which is really not a great sign. It's not a great thing to have them all be there. It's a sign of market weakness. It doesn't mean we're done, but if we do break these yellow boxes over the next few days, you better be looking for protection for your long positions or buying, just getting out of some long positions to lock in some profits. So that's your big three sitting at demand: Russell, S&P, and NASDAQ. Just for fun, let's go and check out your Dow Jones Industrial Average, which I have a demand zone much lower, around 41,840, but we're not there yet. So this is definitely looking like the strongest of our four indexes that we've looked at here today. You mentioned the VIX. Well, let's go into VIX. VIX is the highest it's been since December of last year, but it's only sitting at 24, call it 25, rounding up. That, in my opinion, that's not a very high number for VIX. Now, just to put it into perspective, I'll put it at where we are right now, which is 24.81, and I'm going to look back historically. The last time that we were anywhere near 24 was back in December, and prior to that, you had August of 2024, we had a huge surge up. Other than that, you really don't see it breach that much. Going back into 2022, we oscillated above and below it, but we've been, in my opinion, in this very complacent, no worries kind of trading world, and that's not the way that markets work. Markets are always going to have a little bit of worry to them, and I feel like worry is starting to come back into the markets. We'll see if this continues on here. Again, if I see that S&P break that demand zone, I do expect to see a heavy surge up in the VIX. We could potentially get 40, but we'd have to break that demand zone and really start to get some momentum to the downside. And right now, that demand zone is holding. And you can see why. Like, this demand zone shows us a couple things. We've done two things in my mind over the past couple of weeks, which I don't feel good about. The first one is this swing low from January 13th, right? In an uptrend, you really don't want to be breaking any swing lows. So if we have this break, which we did on Tuesday, right? We broke this swing low and went immediately to the next one. That's your first real sign. I'll put the yellow box in there just so you guys can understand what I'm talking about. Sorry for the podcasters. I'm actually just putting a zone on the candle from January 13th. And you notice we ripped right through that. That is making a new swing low. That's not good. And then we came back down to this one that we're currently sitting in. After that, you've got unfilled gaps. You could easily see this market fall all the way down to the next kind of pivot, which would be, if you broke that level, that would be a decline of roughly another 5%. Again, not apocalyptic, but it could happen very quickly if panic and fear starts to rush into this. So that's the sitting at demand. And again, if demand breaks, we could see these markets really start to slip. So be careful out there, everybody. Hope you're not overly loaded long. If you are, might want to protect yourself. Let's see. I'm watching VIX and see if it breaks trend line. Hasn't broke, still upward channel. So I saw a comment in here that says, how is the VIX calculated or priced, from Chris? The VIX simply represents the amount of puts to the amounts of calls on the S&P 500. So what it shows you is, if we see the VIX surging, it means a lot more people are buying puts. If it's down here, it means a lot more people are buying calls, meaning that they're just bullish on the market and everything seems to be fine. All right, you're looking for protection. So as we see that VIX rise, it means more and more people are looking for protection because markets are falling. Again, people generally want to buy homeowners insurance when the house is on fire. Damn it, Margaret, you just jinxed us. You just jinxed it. We're going to get bad audio now, Margaret. It's like the announcer that goes, oh, this receiver hasn't dropped a pass in 7 years. He's incredible. Oh, he dropped the pass. Dang it, Margaret. So, Christopher, that's really what you're looking at with the VIX is it's a fear gauge. It's historically been a fear gauge, and as I've mentioned many times before, there's a belief, there's a mantra that was really important to me when I got started, and it goes like this. It goes, when VIX is high, it's time to buy. When VIX is low, it's time to go. And that worked back then. In my opinion, it broke, and I'll show you when it broke. It broke back here. Let's go way back. In my opinion, it broke in 2020. And the reason I say it broke in 2020 is we were down at 14. You guys can see here, back in February, we were down at 14. And the mantra says when VIX is high, time to buy. What that implies is that when the VIX gets really high, that means everyone is panicking. And when everyone panics, that's when they do dumb stuff and they sell. So in principle, when VIX is over 40, that's where you should be looking for buying opportunities. And you'll notice here on this chart, it went from 40 all the way up to a high of, what was that number? To a high of roughly 85. 85. So if you were buying the VIX, you were buying the S&P, because the VIX was above 40, telling you to buy, you probably had your account evaporated because the markets just kept falling and falling and falling. So please don't fall victim to this. This is just kind of a guide for you and helping you read the emotions, the fear, the panic in the marketplace. But as we just pointed out, the easiest way to read panic and greed in the marketplace is to look at the market. And you can see, I think everyone here could look at this chart. Even if you're a first week technical analysis person, you could look at the last week and a half of trading, call it 2 weeks, and go, this looks different than most of the down moves, right? We did have a big move down here. I'll look at the last few big down moves. So you had a big down move from March 28th of last year to April 19th. Markets fell about 6.9%. Then you had another one which went from July 15th of last year to a dead low on August 5th. That was down 10.47, right? So those are your last kind of big slides that happened in the market. And our current one, if you look at the S&P from peak to the very bottom here, you're looking at a slide of 7.11. So it just definitely tells you there's fear in those situations. Just like if I showed you this chart right here, all right, so let's say you look at this chart right here. What would you say the fear is? Is there any fear in this market if you look at that picture I'm showing you? And for the viewers or the listeners, I'm showing a chart from December of 2023 all the way through July of last year, where it was just a giant up move, a pullback of, 7%, and then another just massive up move. If you look at this, there's no fear here. So the VIX would most likely be very low. Your indicators would show you overbought situations. So stochastics, your MACDs, your Bollinger Bands will all show you overbought. And those are just there to help you. You can just look at price, and to me, that's the easiest way to understand fear and greed in the marketplace. And I wonder, who's calculating out that fear and greed. It's probably just using like a MACD or stochastics, right? If we look at other indicators, right, there's no fear, right? Sophisticators, just nope, just kept on going. So let me add in one indicator here just for fun. I have ADR in there. Let's go add in stochastics. I don't know. Do you guys have a favorite? Stochastics, Bollinger Band, RSI? Anyone that you think? Let's go to, I like stochastics better than RSI, so I'll do stochastics. And stochastics, without even showing it yet, is going to tell me right now that it's oversold. Wow, what a surprise. I didn't need to do much research there because I can just tell. If you look at where we are, so what stochastics does, I believe it's the last 14 periods. Let me make sure. I have so many indicators in my head. Let me just check and make sure on that one. Usually it's 14 periods. Yeah, so they use 14 periods. And basically what that means is they're going back the last 14 candles. And all stochastics says is where is current price today in relation to the last 14 bars. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Here's the vertical line. 14 days ago was February 14th, 14 trading sessions ago. So if you use this top red horizontal line actually I'll keep it right, the range, the difference between the high and low, where are we today relative to the highs and lows for that period? Well, we're right near the bottom, so we're oversold. If we get a day tomorrow that runs up to, let's say, 5,800 or maybe 5,850, then this stochastics will curl back up here. It'll get above 20, and that would be a buying opportunity. So, again, it's really about price. If I'm making a trade tomorrow based off this, it's based off of an aggressive sell-off into a demand zone, not an indicator. Let's see. I like Brandon Wendell's RSI. I don't know. RSI is okay. I like, if I put an indicator on my chart, I like stochastics just because it's a little bit easier to comprehend its calculation. RSI, which is Relative Strength Index, is how strong is this cryptocurrency in relationship to itself. And again, this one's not showing you oversold, by the way. Oversold on RSI is below 30, and we're not there yet. Right now, RSI on this is 32.9, so it's not saying it's oversold. Now, does it matter? If you look at a price chart like this and you have something that's screaming into demand zone, and it looks pretty oversold, I don't necessarily need for RSI or stochastics to tell me it's oversold. It's more about the demand zone that I'm interested in. Right? Anyway, sorry, we're off on a tangent there. Sorry about that one. That's what happens on this show. Just kind of randomly go off on little tangents. I was kind of getting to the top. Let me run through all of these because I think this was kind of interesting as well. I'd been looking at this dollar index, and if you split this up into a 4-hour time frame, there's an interesting demand zone that goes back to November 7th, November 8th, and we knifed through that today, so I'll take that out. But we do have a hammer formation on that dollar index. Remember, you have the dollar in an aggressive decline because the Secretary of the Treasury and the President have both said, we want a weak dollar. We want a weak dollar, and I'm not gonna fight him. It's like trying to fight Jerome Powell, right? They say you never go against what Jerome Powell is telling you to do in the market just because he's going to drive that boat. And if you have a Secretary of the Treasury and a President both saying we want a weak dollar, we want weak yields, then you got to look at shorting that dollar or weakness in the dollar trending forward, and also that 10-year yield, which was, we'll look at that here in just a sec. So this is an interesting one just because of the technical pattern, hammer formation. Near lows, but not really at demand. You had gold, which held its own today, even with all the chaos in the markets. I actually thought we'd have a bigger update for gold, simply because you're looking at the flight to security, and it really didn't move much. It was up 0.02% as we speak right now, but it did have long bottoming tails and kind of indecision moments here. We've got a lot of stuff on the plate over the next couple of days, with politically, crypto, deals with Mexico, Canada. That tariff card gets pulled off the table like just a little teaser. All right, move up to that 10-year. So that 10-year came into demand a couple days ago. We talked about that one. It's have a nice bounce since then. My guess is that 10-year will probably go to about 4.4% yield. This has been very good news. I saw a lot of headlines today talking about how mortgages are dropping in price. It's so good for the home buyers. And yes, it is. That's what the president wants. That's what the Treasury wants, is to get these yields lower and lower. And the lower these yields go, the better it is for government, because that means that the government doesn't have to pay as much interest on their debt. They do this to cover their debt. So that is your 10-year yield. And then finally, I'll wrap it up here with the crude oil chart, which isn't necessarily at demand zone, but I've talked about this for a while. If you go back to last year, we've really been stuck in this price range between $65 and $67. Right? Stuck in that zone. And we're dead smack in the middle of it today on our current price chart for crude oil. So I do anticipate a stall here, a possible bounce in crude oil. I'm going way out here now just so you guys can see the longer term chart. I definitely do not think we're getting down, well, I can't guarantee you, but I'm pretty sure we're not going to get to negative $41 like we did back in April of 2020. But does it trickle much lower? We haven't been there. We haven't been below these current prices since roughly 2021. And certainly it could go lower. There's no doubt about that. The trend seems to be agreeing with that as well. You got lower highs and the same lows. Essentially, if you're a technical analysis person, as I am, you put a line right across these highs here, and you're looking at a roughly, rough descending triangle right there. Where price keeps pushing lower and lower and lower, and we're resting right across the bottom. So this is another very interesting chart where it's either going to break and go down aggressively, or going to have a little bit of a retaliatory move back to the upside here, a little rebound, bounce, if you will. So anything can go here. All these markets are just right at inflection points. I think I did the show, markets at a breaking point. Today's even worse. This is really it. So Steve says, to me, it looks like another pullback. Did not break the trend. The current pullback looks to have broken the trend, broke the swing low. And I already moved on from that chart, Steve. I can't remember which one you were talking about. Merlin, when there's extreme fear and panic, everything sells. Equities, gold, grains, cryptocurrencies. Yep. Yes. And usually there's a disconnect where something goes the opposite direction, but we didn't see that today, right? Today, everything except crude oil was down, and crude oil just recently popped up. This was all negative here when I started the show. All of that was negative on today's session. All right, so that's your market direction. Again, I have a couple trades on that are going to be difficult for me. Let's see, I've got a bunch of MicroStrategy calls against my position at 320, and I'm really debating closing those tomorrow if we get above it. I do want to actually hold on to my MicroStrategy and rather sell some calls against that. I haven't talked about Broadcom yet, Oliver. No need to delete your chat. I saw it. You know, hide those for me. I haven't even looked at their earnings today. I just looked at Costco's, which we'll bring up here in just a second. As far as MicroStrategy goes, this is a somewhat bearish pattern. All right, it's not the best looking pattern. We did hit 320 today. We're actually a little bit slightly above 320. I have the 320 calls against my position. If we get above that tomorrow, I will probably close those out so I can roll them, and I'll probably do the 350s because that's what my higher price was 352. And then I also have Palantir, which was an interesting one. We had a huge down day for Palantir. Fell about 10% today. I do have the $75 strike, so I'm not really worried about that one tomorrow. I'm okay if it gets there. I actually hope it gets close to 75 so I can sell some more puts, maybe even at lower levels on Palantir tomorrow. SMCI, I'm down on SMCI. I've got the $40 strikes for tomorrow, and right now it's at $37.50. So I will probably be long on SMCI tomorrow. And what was the other one? Oh, Tesla. So Tesla have been, on an aggressive downtrend here. I had that 250 marked out. It's certainly fallen a bit more than I thought it would, but I think I'm okay here on the 250 strikes on Tesla. A lot of negative press. It got another downgrade today and some negative comments. I think Baird, one of the big fund families, was talking about how they just, that's kind of funny, they were saying how they believe that Elon Musk's actions will bring a lot more negativity to Tesla, and that's going to impact their earnings going forward. I don't know if you saw, there's a bunch of videos surfacing of Tesla Cybertruck owners getting stuff thrown at their trucks, and people vandalizing them because of Elon Musk. I'm like, come on, people, that's ridiculous. It does look pretty bad, Steve. But think of the company overall, right? Yes, I think Elon Musk is, in some ways, he's doing good, and in others, he's doing a lot of damage, and he's going to create a lot of enemies. This is why, you shouldn't discuss religion and politics. You keep your opinions to yourself, and he's really all of a sudden polarized himself to, what is it, the right? I guess he's on the right now, and really alienating a lot of people who were supporters of his, and that's extremely damaging for business. However, as a business, with the AI, with the robotics, with robotaxis, it's hard to bet against this one. So I actually like it. I like it. I hope it keeps dropping. I'm happy to buy it at lower levels. For the long haul, I do think that Tesla will be fine. But yeah, this is a pretty rough scene here. I mean, if you go since December 18th to where we are today, Tesla is down 46%. Ouch. Dave Boyner called him out on the news for not being CEO of his company. Yeah. Well, I think one of the good things about Elon Musk is, at least I'm listening to his biography. What autobiography is where you write your own. This is where somebody else wrote his biography. Really interesting book, and you get a much clearer sense of his leadership style. He's not the one who's doing day-to-day operations. He comes in, checks everything out real quick, asks a ton of questions, gets real deep, and says, fix this, this, and this, and I'll be back. Do I think that what he's doing is detracting him from running SpaceX and Tesla? Without question. Absolutely. I think you can only do so much. I mean, I get dizzy just watching what he's doing between SpaceX and Tesla, let alone all of the other things that this guy is doing. I don't know how you do it. It's pretty incredible for all that he's doing. And Sophisticated said Elon is not interested in the short term. 1,000%. For him, short term doesn't matter. I think he'd actually like it if it fell more so he could buy more, yeah. But it does create panic and pain for shareholders like you and me who are looking for more upside potential. Real quick, let's go to Costco. I didn't get all the numbers for Broadcom, and I looked at Costco because I was really expecting them to do a 10-for-1 split today. It just makes sense. They should have done it. I was wrong again. I was going on the limb saying we're going to get a 10-to-1 stock split, but we're not going to get that one. So here's the numbers for Costco. Revenue increased 9% year to year. Okay, this is nowhere near the, 25% for NVIDIA, or anything NVIDIA might have been higher than that. But revenue increased 9% year over year to $63.7 billion. They beat by $500 million on revenue. That's great. Earnings per share, they missed, right? They were supposed to come out at $4.11. They came out at $4.02. So that was a bad one. They had 897 warehouses. I guess they increased 22 year over year, 6 quarter over quarter. You had comparable sales. Oops. Yeah, I messed up on my numbers here. I know it would have been fun to have that split. Totally would have been fun to have the split. E-commerce increased 20%. Just a lot of really good numbers. But as Big Eb pointed out, when you get a PE that high, you better be shattering numbers. And it makes me wonder if you're going to get a bigger pullback here. I think Costco is amazing. I love it. It's my weekend joy. I will tell you, I probably go to Costco once a weekend, and I got so much garbage in my house I just don't need. Although I do love my pasta maker, I will say I love the pasta maker and my KitchenAid mixer for all my bread I'm trying to make. But at some point, you're going to have to look at this and go, where's my trigger to go short? And I do think we already got it. I do think it happened with the earnings, right? The trigger would have been, all right, it feels like, if you forget about earnings that just were reported, and you look at this price chart, you can see that it's kind of been holding this line right around $1,019. Yet, its highs have been getting lower and lower and lower. That's not a good sign, right? It's almost a descending triangle forming here. Now, I thought we might get a little bit of a bounce and break it in the next week or two. But right now, we're already below that 1,019 mark. We're at 1,010. So we'll see what happens when it opens up tomorrow. If we can get above that 1,019 mark and then break below, I may actually look at buying puts directionally on this one, because I do think that it's a little bit long in the tooth. Even though you're getting great growth, I still think there's potential for some downside. Sophisticated said, "Do you Merlin toys?" Yeah, I got all kinds of weird little. I'm a kitchen gadget person. I don't know why, but like when someone comes over, like, oh, do you have a slicer? Yeah, here you go. I got a slicer. Oh, do you have blenders? Yeah, I got blenders. Do you have food processors? Got it. I got juicers? Yeah, got it. I got all this stuff. Crock pots? How many you need? You can never be too prepared for a culinary experience over here. Buy a bread maker? I saw that. I kind of just getting into bread making. I made a loaf the other day, and I was just in love with it. It was just such a simple process. I mean, it's hard to believe that this, like, the best bread you're going to get is just literally flour, water, salt, and yeast, and maybe some sugar or honey if you really want to add it. But that's it. There's really nothing else to it. So when you go buy these loaves of bread for like $6, you realize you can make it for about 50 cents. Cost operating margin at 3.5% on a lot of revenue, but still very low. Yeah, they don't. Their margins have always been historically low, right? I've always called this the Walmart theory, which is you don't make a lot of money on each item, but you sell so many items, right? If you look at Lamborghini or Ferrari, they're making a lot of money per item because they don't sell a lot of it. So you either sell very few items that are really expensive and your margins are huge, or you sell a massive amount of items and your profit margins are very little. It's one of two marketing approaches, right? And certainly when we look at Costco, they're in that sell in bulk kind of category. No doubt about it. I mean, they're called a bulk warehouse. Let's go look at Broadcom real quick just because you'd asked about it. I didn't look at their numbers, but I will bring them up. It is ripping in the after-hour session. You're up 15.29% on Broadcom. Let's go 5 minutes here so you can see the big spike. Whew, lordy, that's a nice one. And that's even off a little bit off of the highs. If you go from where we closed to our peak here, at one point it was about 18% in the aftermarket. And I'll bring up the earnings calendar here real quick just so I can see. I don't have all the details, but they're supposed to report $1.50. Came out at $1.60. Be nice to know more of those measures, but all in all, a pretty darn good day. You know who didn't beat earnings? Hewlett-Packard. Anybody in here tell me what Hewlett-Packard does? I had a family friend. We used to always go to his grandma's house because their grandpa was a big wig at Hewlett-Packard. And I remember back in the day, they were leaders in the computer space. I don't even know what they do. They went from leaders in the computer space to they built the calculators that I used when I was in college. And now I don't even know what Hewlett-Packard does. Somebody told me I think they do software or something, but I know you saw that 9 feet plastic bar setting that you put in the backyard. Oh, you mean the shed that converts into a bar? You talking about that one, Oliver? I did see that one. That was a really cool. But it's over $1,000 for a Rubbermaid plastic outdoor bar. I like that. If I had more land, then I would put one of those in the backyard probably. Yeah, I think Big Eb's right. He says printers. Yeah, you do see them on printers. And honestly, given how much everything has improved in society for the past thousands of years, why have printers remained such pieces of garbage? You can buy a printer for $100, but your toner runs out in a week and it costs you $100 to get a new toner. It's like, what? Can we just figure out how to make the printing? It's like it's a total gimmick. It's ridiculous. Let's see what else I got. Doesn't Costco have a ton of Kirkland companies internationally for their products? I believe they do, Saba. And Kirkland products are honestly pretty good. I have no problem with any beverage from Kirkland. So Crown Royal used to be my drink. When I go out, I do a Crown. My belief is that you should have a drink. If you go to a bar, you should have a drink that you can sign language the bartender. And I say sign language the bartender because sometimes it's so loud in there they can't hear you. So you just sign language it. So mine was, there you go. That's my drink I'll order at the bar. For those that couldn't see that, or those that are still guessing, it was a Crown and Coke was my drink. But Crown Royal is pretty expensive. Kirkland makes a Canadian blended whiskey, which is better than Crown Royal, and almost a third the cost. It's just really, 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 really cheap. Yep, my dog loves it as well, John. I've been feeding him the red bag of dog food for years. All right, man, it's so funny how we just drift off topic. Anyway, Hewlett-Packard, tanking. This is not one I would even have on my radar that I'd be even remotely interested in. Like Broadcom, yeah, I'd be interested on a big sell-off. But Tesla, sure. But Hewlett-Packard, I got no interest. And if you notice where we are right now, I'll put a bold red line on the screen so you can see where we are right now. We are right at a demand zone that goes back to the huge move up on February 29th of 2024. There you go. Yep, Kirkland Spiced Rum's pretty good. I've never been a big fan of the spiced rum. More of a whiskey guy. Rum's never been, but yeah, I do have one for parties. I will buy that one. The salmon and sweet potato. Yep, that was his. That used to be mine's favorite. Oh man, you guys are calling me out. Do I buy the rotisserie chicken? Are you kidding me, Margaret? You have to buy a rotisserie chicken. You're fooling yourself if you don't buy the rotisserie chicken. For those who've never been, you can go to your local store. I can go to Vaughn's, excuse me, or Stater Brothers, and I can buy a rotisserie chicken here for $8.99. And it's like a game hen. It's really a tiny thing. Costco, you get these gigantic chickens for $4.99 rotisserie. I have one in my fridge right now. I usually take all the meat off, and I'll make chicken noodle soup out of it. Oh, yes, absolutely. Just about every time I go, Margaret, I grab a whole rotisserie chicken. Love it. And even though I'm not a big fan of hot dogs, how can you not buy the $1.50 hot dog and a Coke? Or Pepsi? I mean, I just know I'm taking advantage of them. I know they're losing money on me when I buy the chicken or I buy that hot dog and Coke. That's why I buy them every time. All right, let's go back up here to the big story. Where are we at now? Okay, 30. Yeah, I'm going to wrap this up. But I know we've got some crypto fans in the room, some that don't. Even if you're a crypto hater, somebody who isn't a believer, who doesn't understand it, doesn't want to, thinks it's a fraud, that's okay. Every day that we have going forward is more acceptance, more understanding, more political clarity, more adoption of digital assets and cryptocurrency. Now, I generally try to shy away from the term cryptocurrency because I believe that implies it's just a currency, and many of these are not just cryptocurrency. So let's take a quick peek at what's coming up tomorrow. This is huge, right? This is absolutely massive. Oops, we don't have that one. We have this one. So your crypto summit tomorrow will be at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. All right, it's going to start at 1:30, and I think it goes to 5:30. So it's a 4-hour meeting, and it has some pretty significant people. They say there's about 20 to 25 guests. So who are said guests? Well, we start off with the confirmed attendees. The confirmed attendees are Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy or Strategy. You have David Bailey, who's the CEO of Bitcoin Magazine. You have Matt Huang, who's the CEO or co-founder of Paradigm. JP Richardson, he's a CEO of Exodus, which is one of the largest exchanges and wallets. You have Kyle Samani, he's the managing partner of Multicoin. I'm going to skip that one. Let's go Sergey Nazarov, he's the co-founder of Chainlink, which is an Oracle, which I'm a big fan of. You have Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase. You've got Vlad Tenev, who's the CEO of Robinhood. You've got Arjun Sethi, who's the CEO of Kraken. You have Chris Masaralak, CEO of Crypto.com, and then Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple. Now, the reason I showed you all that is there's all this discussion about two conversations, a strategic Bitcoin reserve and a digital asset stockpile. And there's a lot of things that could come from this. Now, I love this list because you have people in here who are very pro, Vitalik, I'll show you right here. Let me get to this. Okay, Big Eb, let me fix this. Here's the political attendees. Obviously, President Trump's going to be there. You got Bo Hines, who's the executive director of the President's Council Advisors for Digital Assets. You've got David Sachs, who's the AI and crypto czar. Mark Ueda, who's the chairman of the SEC right now. Okay, he's the active one. And then you got Caroline Pham, who's the acting chairman of the U.S. Commodities, the CFTC. So we've got two major regulatory bodies. You got the AI crypto czar, you got the president, and then you have a bunch of other important people. Now, here's the people who are unconfirmed. Kathy Wood, who's the CEO of ARK. Vitalik Buterin of Ethereum. Jamie Allaire is the CEO of Circle. Paolo Ardonio, who's the CEO of Tether. Charles Hoskinson of Cardano. Anatoly Yakovenko of Solana. And Mark Andreessen, who is one of the early peoples in Ripple. This is important because, time for lunch? Yeah, Vlad is confirmed that he is going. And the reason I bring this up is let's see if my pen works. It never works when I want it to. Of course, now that I say that, I just jinx it. Yeah, you look at that. It does work today. I'm going to put X's next to the people who are saying it should just be Bitcoin. Let's go down here. I believe Sergey has also said it should be Bitcoin. Brian Armstrong. See, so these are the people that I put X's on right now. These are the people that are saying this strategic Bitcoin reserve should be only Bitcoin and there should be nothing else in it. So you're going to get a lot of pushback here. Certainly no Michael Saylor will just say Bitcoin only. What interests me is Brian Armstrong, who is the CEO of Coinbase. He has said, look, there's only one choice for a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and that is Bitcoin, because it's not controlled by anybody. I brought this one up. If you look at Ripple, if you look at Cardano, well, Cardano's not controlled by anybody either. However, there is a company that does a lot of the coding, and that's out of China, which may be one of the problems for Cardano being accepted in this because it's China. I did not see Cynthia Lummis there. Really surprised, or Lummis, I forget how you pronounce it, Kenny. She should be there, but she's maybe doing her own thing. I'm sure she has met with the president, but Brad Garlinghouse, he is one that says Ripple should be the one that's in that strategic Bitcoin reserve. But you guys, out of all these cryptos we mentioned, Ripple is the biggest one-sided, I'm not going to say scam. A lot of people call it a scam. I don't think it's a scam because they have a product that delivers. But every day, if you are a Ripple owner, every day, Ripple Labs is selling Ripple on the open market every day. They just sell and sell and sell and sell and sell. So, Ripple is actually against the people who buy Ripple, because they're pushing prices down by selling constantly into the open market. They have 42% of all the tokens or coins that exist in their hands. That's why I don't like it. You look at something like Bitcoin, nobody controls it. There is no one entity that controls it. So hearing Coinbase's CEO Brian Armstrong tell the world that it should only be Bitcoin is big. I do expect there to be some big announcements. I don't know what it is. It could be clarity on the strategic Bitcoin reserve. It could be more clarity on the digital asset stockpile. It could also be rules about taxation for cryptocurrencies, which cryptos are allowed in the U.S., right? I have no idea, but this is much needed because at least we have a president who's going to listen to these individuals. Now, let me ask you guys this. If President Trump's going to be there, what do you think his interest is in all of this? ETH is decentralized significantly, but it does have a team that's its main code builders. It does go through approval by the whole community, but the Ethereum Foundation is responsible for doing most of the code upgrades for Ethereum. But what's Trump's interest, right? What's his angle? There's always an angle with Trump, in my opinion. So what would you guys say is his angle in all this? And the reason I bring that up is I need to think outside the box a little bit if I'm going to be taking a flyer and looking at, building a crypto position. I want to know what Trump's going to do, right? It would be in my interest to know what Trump is going to say, how he's going to do it. He wants to make himself some money, right? More exit liquidity for the Trump coin. He knows Trump coin's a joke. He also has World Liberty Financial. Yeah, big Eb, Trump coin only in the strategic reserve. He knows that will never fly. The industry will laugh him off the face of the planet if he even attempted to do that. However, he owns a majority, I believe 70% of World Liberty Financial. And if you notice right here in the middle, you see this guy here says Zach Witkoff. Zach Witkoff. So let me real quickly show you. 1 second. So let me real briefly just say that every single person on this screen on the left-hand side, Michael Saylor, David, these are all influential, big-time people who've made major contributions to the entire crypto world. And then you got this no-name guy, Zach Witkoff. All right? So who is Zach Witkoff? Well, let me bring it up here for you. Give me just a second. I'm going to try to bring it up. I'm trying to find the team. There you go. Who is Zach Witkoff? So here's who runs World Liberty Financial. You got Donald Trump, Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr., Barron Trump. So you got those four. And then you have the Witkoff family. It looks like here's Stephen Witkoff. Looks like his son Zach will be there. Alex Witkoff. So he's got this relationship with the Witkoff family. Now, if I am a 71% owner in World Liberty Financial, which does nothing, folks, it does nothing yet. They've simply raised money and are now buying cryptocurrencies with that raised money. So in my opinion, I believe that World Liberty Financial will find out first what Trump's going to do. Why? Because Trump owns World Liberty Financial. So what you want to do is you want to fall, at least in my opinion. You guys let me know if you think I'm out of line here. Please be honest. Do you think it would be important to look behind the curtain to see what cryptocurrencies World Liberty Financial has been buying? And they just bought another couple $1 million worth of Ethereum and Bitcoin. So let's go look at their wallet. This is why we love cryptocurrency. I know it's hard to read, but let me make it full screen here. 1 second, or make it bigger. This right here is World Liberty Financial's current holdings. They have $16 million worth of Ethereum as their number one holding. Number 2, Bitcoin, 14 million. Number 3 is Tether, which is a stable coin. Number 4, staked ETH. So their 2 largest holdings are Ethereum and Bitcoin. Now, they have a lot of other stuff here. They got some Tron. They got one called White, Move, Ondo, Kali. They're really starting to spread around. Oh, they got Grok. That's a fake one. They got a lot of small, little, tiny stuff in here. But what's interesting for me, anyway, is the top 2 holdings are Bitcoin and Ethereum. I think that speaks volumes, because if Trump's going to approve and say, this is what we're going to put in there, you bet your bottom dollar it's going to be in this portfolio for World Liberty Financial. So, you look through this list of proposed ones. I'm just looking to see, do I see Cardano, Solana, or Ripple in this portfolio at all? And the answer is no. There is no Solana, no Cardano, and no Ripple in this portfolio at all. He's got like $200 worth of BNB. Like, I have more than that. He's got a lot of little positions, like a couple $100 in it. Other than that, there's nothing. I mean, not one of those stocks. There's Polkadot, but he doesn't have any Solana, no Cardano, and no Ripple. I'm just going through the whole list here trying to find him. And even if he did, I'm down at the area now where it's like $7 worth. So I thought that was interesting, so you can all see. Oh, there's Solana. He has $2.24 worth of Solana in this account. Taking a huge flyer on Solana, are we, Mr. Trump? Anyway, his dad, Steve, is a lead negotiator for his... Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Maybe buy some those ape images. Is that real Bitcoin? No, it's not real Bitcoin. It's what's called staked or wrapped Bitcoin. WBTC, wrapped Bitcoin. So what this is wrapped Bitcoin simply means they've taken actual Bitcoin. Very great question. This is a little bit technical. I'll give you a simple example. So let's say you have 2 different networks. You've got the Bitcoin network and you have the Ethereum network. They do not communicate with each other. They are completely different technologies. One's proof of work, one's proof of stake. One uses Ouroboros, one uses SHA-256. They're completely different, right? It's like trying to take an engine part off of a Tesla and throw it in your diesel truck. It's like, this isn't going to work. So what you do is, if I wanted to use my Bitcoin, my real Bitcoin, on the Ethereum network, I can send it over to what's called a bridge. A bridge simply is a smart contract. A smart contract, as many of you know, is just simply a piece of code. And what that code does is it says, okay, this smart contract sits on top of Ethereum. And when you deposit your Bitcoin in there, you can put your Bitcoin in there, it keeps it in a custody account, and it issues you this S or WBTC, which is wrapped Bitcoin. Wrapped Bitcoin is a token, and it's redeemable for that Bitcoin in that smart contract at any time. So anytime you want to get it out, you can just convert it back to the Bitcoin. But now that it's a wrapped Bitcoin, you can use it in the ecosystem for all things on the Ethereum network. I can swap it for any other token. It's just like any other product on Ethereum's blockchain. So that's what a wrapped coin is. It's taking something that does not operate on another network and allowing it to operate by essentially putting it in a custodial account, locking it up, and issuing a synthetic token for it. I hope that makes sense. Margaret says, no one from BlackRock. To my understanding, no. I have seen multiple lists of different people. Yeah, these are people, like I say, who are unconfirmed. Charles Hoskinson, I really think he should be there. I don't know why. But, if Trump has mentioned that in this Bitcoin or strategic, not strategic, our digital asset stockpile, I gotta get, it's called the DAS, the digital asset stockpile. He mentioned Cardano. He mentioned Solana, yet those 2 people are not invited. That's Charles Hoskinson and Anatoly Yakovenko. And he mentioned Ethereum, and Vitalik is kind of the leader of that ship. So Kind of strange. Again, I have no idea how this is ultimately going to pan out. I do expect it to, in general, give some good news, at least clarity for our marketplace. I can't see him slamming it because Trump has got too much interest in crypto. His family is banking on it. And if he sees the moves that he is making in crypto by his every words, man, they're attendees. So it's basically just a discussion. It's basically they're going to like roundtable discussion and talk about digital assets. What can we do with it? Why is it important? Which ones are made in America? What are the risks here? What should we be doing? And there was one other, the CEO of Tether, this Paulo Ardonio. I actually saw footage of him on Capitol Hill, so I think he may actually be there, but these are unconfirmed ones. These are the ones that are officially going on this list. So just keep in mind, this is the first of its kind in the history of the United States to have something like this. Of course, crypto is relatively new. This is very good. This is extremely encouraging for the broader industry. If it doesn't have a dramatic impact in one day, I think it will down the road and kind of build forward. But I do think we're going to get the announcement of a strategic Bitcoin reserve within the next few months. I think Cynthia Lummis already has the bill. I think Trump will understand more. He'll talk to her. Then they'll push that through to the Senate. He'll vote on it and get that thing rolling. And then we'll be at my 250 price target. I'm still sticking by it, even though it seems such a long shot away, right? Every day we stay down here below 100,000, that 250 becomes more and more of a challenge. But I do think we'll get there. They should put that summit on ESPN. They should televise it somewhere. I don't know if they're going to televise it or not, but I hope that they do. It'll unfortunately be pretty much right as we do this show. You know, it goes from 1:30 to 5:30, but I'll probably try to watch the tail end of it. You know, I'm going to get the TLDR, the cliff notes of it. Yeah, I don't know, Steve. I don't think it will be televised. I don't know why. It should be. Let's see. What do we got here? No, BlackRock. Nope. I wonder how Michael Saylor can stomach being around the world financial guy. Well, look, Michael Saylor is going to do his part. He is a very good spokesman for Bitcoin, and we'll see if he can kind of convince Trump and team that we should not be buying these cryptocurrencies that are controlled by a company, that are controlled by a central entity. That defeats the purpose, right? Again, I made this point. The gold reserves we have is gold's not controlled by one organization. Ripple is controlled by one organization. That should not be anywhere near this reserve. And, when you look at the other names here, like Brian Armstrong, who's the CEO of Coinbase, or Vlad Tenev of Robinhood, or even J.P. Richardson of Exodus, these guys are going to promote, I think, a strategic Bitcoin reserve, Bitcoin only. And the reason for that is it's the starting point. And if you make that such a focal point, then it warms people up to the idea of other digital assets, as opposed to putting in these other ones in there right away. I think you start slow and make it much more of a safer bet for the U.S. as opposed to something that could be manipulated by a company. All right, that's it. That's all I got for today. Let's go to... We did not get our 10-for-1 split. I'm bummed. I really, really wanted the 10-for-1s. I wanted to be right. I wanted to just nail one today. Let's see. Where did I dip? There are my charts over here. All right, so let's go into your economic calendar. Tomorrow, of course, is the big day of the week with regards to economic calendars. We will look at... Friday is the... Man, my font got real small. There you go. Much bigger for you. You have the unemployment rate. Of course, given the numbers that came out yesterday, that ADP non-farm employment change was really bad, like really bad. I was shocked to see it's the lowest it's been in a long, long time. Here's your unemployment rate. Right now, we're at 4%. And if you look, after we calmed down from the COVID thing, we were rising aggressively from 2023 all the way to mid-2024. But we've been dropping for about the past 8 months. And, sticking at 4% would be fine. It would not surprise me if it came out at 4.1%. Again, if I move this table over like this, I think that this blank space off to the right here, I think this is where we're going to start to get the problem. I think we'll start to see this thing, you get to your August, September, all of a sudden unemployment is like, oh, we're at 4.4, 4.5, and rising quickly with all the layoffs that are going on. Remember, it's not just the amount of layoffs that Musk is doing. It's also companies now. You're seeing more and more talk about company layoffs. And it just makes sense. If the economy feels like it's going to slow down, you got the Atlanta Fed with this atrocious GDP forecast that does imply that the expectation is we're going to start to slow down in the second and third quarters of this year. Well, companies are going to start to plan ahead for that so they can optimize their profit. I did not see the Challenger job cuts. Normally, Challenger isn't that influential, but let's check that one out. We'll go to today and check out the Challenger job cuts. It's weird. It's normally the first day of the week. Usually it's on a Tuesday, but they switch it around. Ooh, wow. So we had job cuts increase by 103%. That's not good. That's not good. I mean, ideally, you want to see this thing down below zero, right? You want to see no job cuts. You want to see more expansion. This is really from 2023 on. We had some high amount of job cuts back in 2023. So, yeah, not a good sign. Not a good sign. As far as the unemployment numbers come out for tomorrow, I think is what you're asking. Yes, those are BMO, so before market opens for tomorrow. So that'll be 8:30 Eastern time. Unemployment is 5:30 California time, so you add 3 to be 8:30 Eastern time. And we also have average hourly earnings, non-farm employment change, and you also have Chairman Powell speaking right as the markets open. He's going to be speaking at the University, the Chicago Booth School of Business, U.S. Monetary Policy Forum. And I don't expect that to be a major one, but you never know. Just be careful of that. Questlock says, based on the current situation, still planning on selling? Yeah. You mean crypto-wise? The plan is, and has not changed, to sell my crypto portfolio later this year. There's a couple of factors that are going to modify this. Number one, watching what happens in events like tomorrow. And I have a feeling they're going to do more of these. And if it does seem like the environment is becoming much more positive, then I will probably hold on to it. Although I can't bet against the statistical probability of something that has happened 100% of the time. I mean, I can't fight that. So I still plan on selling, probably around September, October, certainly by November, selling. However, my opinion could change. Things may change because of that, but again, I'll let you guys know as we get closer to that. If we get any sort of ruling from Trump and the administration and Senate and Congress, whoever, that says that there's no tax on specific cryptocurrency capital gains, I will sell every one of those. Every one. I'll sell 100% of all of those that they name, and I'll buy those back right away to reestablish my cost basis at a much higher level. But for the most part, I'm still planning on selling, yes. I had a feeling to start looking at all of the econ data today. Yep. All right, that's going to do it, everybody. There's not really anything going on the earnings front for tomorrow. I can bring you a calendar up here if you want for Friday, but it wasn't any really huge names. I'll bring them up by market cap here. Yeah, there's really nothing in the U.S. here that's noteworthy. No big names I even recognize here. Mammoth Energy? Nope. The market could really use a rate cut. Well, the market could really use a rate cut, but that could also juice that inflation number a bit. So we're backing ourselves into that corner again of, what do we do here? It's going to be a very interesting year. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for me. Keep your eyes on the events for tomorrow. I think it's going to be really exciting. I think you guys are going to all we'll certainly be talking about that one tomorrow, but it just starts right as we start the show, that crypto summit. I think that'll be one of the more exciting pieces for the weekend. That might set the whole tone for the weekend. Not exactly sure how that's going to happen or how it's going to pan out, but I'm ready for it. And options expiration, so it should be a good one. All right, if you got any questions, email me, tradermerlin@gmail.com. Let me know what you guys want to talk about for our Friday show. I'm looking forward to a nice glass of whiskey. Hope you guys have a fantastic remainder of your day, and I will see you mañana. Take care.